Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Empowering Minds Mental Health Podcast. And today we're diving into a real and needed conversation about mental illness and self care, something so many of us are navigating every day. So today I have a special guest, Coach Jamie, who is here to share some wisdom, practical tools, and maybe even shift the way we think about taking care of ourselves. Thank you for coming, Coach Jamie.
My pleasure to be here.
Thank you. All right. So before we dive in, Coach Jamie, can you tell the listeners a bit about who you are and what inspired you to do this type of work in mental health?
Sure. I am a social psychologist, author, and trauma recovery coach. And I got here because of personal experience, which is, I think, most of the times the case with anybody that's in the field of psychology is usually go into it to try to figure yourself out. So I myself went through childhood trauma. My mother passed away when I was just a child, when I was 8 years old.
Mm.
I grew up with emotional and psychological abuse, grew up with depression, clinical depression. I suffered with that for many, many years. Had a suicide attempt when I was 18, and really didn't start the intentional healing journey until probably my mid 20s, around 24 or so, somewhere. And
Mm-hmm.
a big part of that was studying psychology, learning more about why depression affected me and people in general, what could be done about
Mm-hmm.
it. And I just had a curiosity to learn more, and then started wanting to, reach out and help others that were dealing with serious mental illness, any other similar conditions like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, your story shows a lot of resilience, and you are right. I've been in mental health either full or part time for like, I think this is my 21st year, 2021, somewhere in there. And that's how I kind of got in there too, because I had been through some traumas and some experiences. So thank you for agreeing to come on, because I like for people to see that there is such thing as recovery or light at the end of the tunnel, and there is resilience, and you can do it. You just have to put some steps in place.
Yep.
So again, thank you for coming on. So yeah, so my next question: how do you explain the connection between mental illness and self-care to someone who's just starting to explore their mental wellness?
So mental illness and self-care, we hear a lot about self-care, and some of
Mhm.
it's very superficial. I might get canceled for this, but oh well, it is what it is. We live in a
Yeah.
superficial world. Everything we see online is somebody that is happy in that moment. They're
Hmm.
happy the moment you see them at the beach. You look at my beach pictures of last vacation. I went, oh, I was great. I was happy. Yeah. But now when I got home, I was like, I want to go back. I don't want to be here. You know, so a lot of what we see and hear tends to be superficial. And that's the case with self-care. It's kind of been
Hmm.
touted as this, you know, treat yourself special for a couple of hours, and that's self-care.
Hmm.
Well, it's not that that's a
Hmm.
bad thing, and it's not that it's not good for you, but when it comes to mental health, you want to really adopt the concept of long-term growth and healing. And
Hmm.
when you start looking at it from that lens, you see things differently.
Hmm.
So, like, when I was in the midst of depression and the darkness and just didn't even want to be on earth anymore, didn't even want to be here, it's that you're not going to think of self-care in those moments. You're just not. It's
Hmm.
too hard. You're fighting darkness. You're struggling to just, do daily tasks sometimes. Um,
Hmm.
so it's when you're not in those moments, that's when you have to put in those practices, those habits of self care,
Hmm.
which are going to include some things that you just don't think twice about or that you don't think would actually be beneficial, like
Mhm.
exercise, regular exercise. Look at your diet. What are you eating? Are you eating
Mhm.
trash? Are you getting
Yep.
the nutrients you need, which can include vitamins, supplements, things like that?
Mhm.
Um, Even when it's difficult, how are your relationships? And when you're, this is probably, I would say this is probably the most difficult thing. And when you're struggling with a mental illness is the relationships, because it does it. Anything we talk about, whether it's anxiety, depression, PTSD, ADHD, bipolar, all of them screw up relationships big time.
Yep.
And it takes a lot of work, but these are skills that you can learn. So you have
Mhm.
to be intentional about it. So when you're not in those deepest, darkest moments, when it's not your survival mode, those are the moments you take and say, okay, what can I do to work on this area? What's
Mhm.
one thing I can do to work on this area? And that's self-care.
Mhm.
That is self-care because you're taking care of yourself. You're almost
Mhm.
becoming your, and this is a psychological theory or principle that's been used a lot, and that's becoming your own parent. You learn to parent your child's self, the inner child, it's sometimes called. And that's
Mhm.
very much true. You're kind of separating yourself from, okay, here's this condition that I'm dealing with, and here's me, and what do I need to do for that person that is going
Mhm.
to help them? And that's where self care starts to have long term beneficial effects.
Absolutely. Before I go on to the next question, um, on your end, are you clear?
Yes.
Because it's blurred on my end.
Yes.
You are
I'm
clear. Okay.
clear. I can hear you and see you.
Great. Okay. So, um, I agree with everything you said, especially the exercise part.
Hmm.
Now, I'm gonna raise my hand because I'm a little bit guilty.
Hmm.
I've kind of been on and off the horse,
Uh-huh. And we do that sometimes.
but
I mean, you just,
yeah, we
when
do.
you recognize it, you say, oh, yep, all right, let me work on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
But I know the exercise does help me. It gives me the best boost of energy. So when I do go, I typically like to go in the morning time
Hmm.
because at nighttime it kind of like it keeps me up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, exercise and putting the right things in our bodies is very beneficial. If I eat some type of sweet or junk, my energy goes way down. So I have to be very careful. What am I putting? Whatever I put in my body.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's, and there's so many studies absolutely people should read everything they can get their hands on.
Hmm.
Whether you think it applies or not, just keep reading, just keep reading. But there's so many studies that, you know, psychology for decades and decades, probably, like 100 years basically, was the mind only. In other words,
Hmm.
regressed memories, trapped memories, all this stuff. And we've come such a long way to where all these studies show now it is not. It is more so your body than it is your mind, and the two work
Yep.
together so well, that if one's dysregulated, the other's dysregulated.
Hmm.
There is so like your body produces dopamine, and this is a problem with a lot of mental health conditions, ADHD and depression especially. Your body has a dysregulation. It's not producing dopamine at the right times, in the right amounts, etc., etc. Well, that's a physical condition. And that physical condition, that dopamine, is what kind of makes you happy, kind of gives you the excitement
Hmm.
from good things and normal things. But if that's dysregulated, now you're going to feel bad. You're going to have bad thoughts.
Hmm.
So the two go together, and it's not, physical health is mental health. So yes,
Oh
exercise
yeah.
that affects dopamine. That also helps regulate your nervous system. It helps the other systems in your body function, your immunity, your digestive, all those things affect your brain.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm glad you broke that down too because I'm pretty sure the viewers who will listen to this later on, I want them to understand how what you just said, our mental and physical health do connect. They tie into one. So I'm so glad you broke it down that way. And since we were talking about self-care, I wanted to ask you, what are some realistic and sustainable self-care practices that can support people living with mental illnesses, especially on those tough days?
Yep. So
Mm-hmm.
one that I always use with clients, and I use it because I'm a child of it myself, and that's journaling. I'm actually a certified journaling instructor, and I did that because I loved it so much. I wanted to be able to, effectively teach that. And so journaling, it's not like a diary. It's not where you write, today's date and it's cloudy today and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to the park, blah, 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 blah. Journaling is where you take even just 5 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
even when you're feeling bad. And this is one of the the things that's magical about it, I guess, is it, like some of the other things, like exercise, like
Mm-hmm.
we mentioned, some other self-care, journaling you can use in those moments when you're
Mm-hmm.
in the deepest, darkest throes, when you feel lonely, when you feel like nobody cares about you, when you feel like this is never going to go away and you're just stuck. Get out your pen and paper and just write what is it you're thinking. Just write what you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
There's no judgment to it. You're not trying to figure it out. You're just writing it down. But what that
Mm-hmm.
does is it's almost like a pressure valve. It
Mm-hmm.
helps release some of that emotional pressure just by getting it out. When you have, like, if you're going through a tough time and something happens, like with your relationship, your boyfriend, girlfriend, your job, whatever, what
Mm-hmm.
do? You call your best friend and say, man, this sucks. This is what happened today. This girl straight up
Mm-hmm.
lied to me and blah, blah, blah. We call that getting it off your chest. This is the
Uh-huh.
same thing, but when you don't have someone else to turn to, or at least you don't feel like
Mm-hmm.
you do, you
Mm-hmm.
get that pen and paper out. You're doing the same thing. Your brain feels it the same way, and it helps
Yep.
relieve some of that emotional pressure. And the second thing it does, it gives you the opportunity to go back later and make observations and say, oh, I see on Tuesday I felt really down like all day. I was like in a depressive episode Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Is there is there anything I did Monday? Maybe was there anything that triggered it, or did I just wake up that way? And you start making those
Mm-hmm.
observations and you start learning yourself. And so, like for me, example, I learned many, many years ago to start kind of tracking my depressive episodes. And I was trying
Mm-hmm.
to figure this stuff out. And I eventually got to a point where I could know within 30 minutes when I woke up if I was going to have depression that day because I learned to track it. I learned to write down the
Mm-hmm.
symptoms. I learned to write down when and why I was feeling that way. But
Mm-hmm.
it helped me so much because then I was like, oh, I have that feeling. I know it. This is just what I experienced before. So now I
Mm-hmm.
know I can kind of prepare. Like if it's, like talking to my girlfriend or my best friend or whoever, I could kind of let them know, hey, I'm having a mood today. And that's all I needed to say to let them know I
Mm-hmm.
knew I was in a depressive episode that day. So yes, journaling
Mm-hmm.
is long term the easiest and most beneficial tool that you can use.
I'm so glad you said that. Um, when my therapist first introduced journaling to me some years back,
Hmm.
first thing I thought, I'm not doing this. I don't have time for this.
Uh-huh.
But I'm so glad that I did.
Hmm.
Even on days that I'm stressed, just writing down things like I really feel like I feel the stress has left
Hmm.
my body because I realize that other people have their own issues going on
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
that I may not be able to pick up the phone, but I can write. And it is so therapeutic for me to just write. It's just routine. It's not like I said, oh, well, I gotta write in my journal today. It's just part of what I do
Yep.
every day. And it
Yep.
does help me track. I can go back and look in a journal from I wrote an entry even 2 or 3 months ago, and I'd be like, oh, this look okay, that triggered me. So
Uh-huh.
this may be why I'm feeling this way today. So
Yep.
I'm glad you said that. So
Uh,
I'm hoping to I hope that will encourage others to journal
yeah.
as well. It is very therapeutic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. So I want to ask you something else. For those who feel overwhelmed, hopeless, or maybe even unsure where to start, what's one powerful message or small step you want them to hold on to or that you would suggest?
So I know people say this all the time, but I hope coming from someone that's been there, and I was there for a long time, all of my teenage years, no
Mhm.
support, no help. Like I said earlier, leading up to a suicide attempt when I was 18,
Mhm.
you're not alone. There are people that I'm not in your shoes, but we have the same experiences in terms of some of the thoughts and feelings that we struggle with.
Mhm.
And if I can come out of it, you can come out of it.
Yeah.
There's thousands of people, thousands, that learn to heal and grow. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is light on the other side. You may sit and say, well, I wish I didn't have this problem. I wish I didn't have this struggle. Okay, good. If you put in the work, you can ditch that problem or struggle. And
Mhm.
even if it's 50%, think about it. If you're hurting right now, if you're struggling right now, how good would it feel to have that knocked in half? It would feel great, right?
Yeah.
I've been there. I've done that. I've reached that point to where, oh, wow, I still have this issue. I'm still not, quote, 100% healed, but it's so much better than it was. I have
Mhm.
moments now, not weeks, not months. So you can get there too. You're not alone. There are people that love you and care about you. And even if it's not the people in your immediate circle, even if you don't feel like it is, there are other people around that care about you and want to see you, you know, heal and grow and be what you're meant to be. And there's oh, what was it? I heard a good quote from someone. Oh, I'm trying to remember who it was now. Oh, I think it was Cat Williams. Yes, Cat Williams was doing an interview and he made this, and I'm going to paraphrase it. But basically, he said, if you're here right now, today, listening to this, you've already overcome 100% of the things that have tried to come against you. So
Mhm.
you have resilience in you. Everything that's come against you so far, you've beat. You've overcome it. You're here
Mhm.
today because you're a winner, because you're a survivor, and because you're resilient. So count on that. You have it in you.
That's good. I love that. I love what you just said. Um, and I think that people really appreciate it when individuals such as ourselves, we've actually been through some traumas or depressive episodes. I think they really appreciate it more because they see the professional side, but I also let them see it. Hey, I'm human. I've been through, or I'm still going through some of the things that
Yep.
you may experience. So people really value that, and I just thank you for your transparency and your openness on this podcast today. So thank you for that. And so before we wrap up, because I know you mentioned about some books and different things, where can listeners find your books or maybe even connect with you so they can learn more about your work or they, may want to reach out to you for coaching?
Sure. My website is managingmentalhealth.net, and you go there, and it's the page. It's got my professional bio. It's got if you're interested in coaching, you can just, put your name and email and I'll reach out to you for a free consultation. And also the books that I have out right now are there as well. And the four in the Managing Mental Health series are all ebooks, so it doesn't matter what you use, they're available. So if you use Nook,
Okay.
Apple, whatever that's on there. And then I have a journal that's a 50-page journal that's got individual prompts that are all made for self-discovery and deep thinking. And so it's available paperback. You can order it from Amazon, but that link's on the same site.
Okay. All right. So again, I want to thank you for coming on. The Empowering Minds Mental Health Podcast is about bringing awareness around stigma. So you've helped me today to provide further education to my viewers who will watch this later on. So I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll be in contact with you soon.
All right.
All right. You take care. Thank you
Thank
again
you.
for coming on.
All right. My
Take
pleasure.
care. Thanks. Bye bye.